You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the Bet Rivers Network.
All right, Jimmy out at Paul Stone Tucker College basketball. Let's get right to it. And, man, on the bad end of this one, but we're still going to lay it. Tennessee and Kentucky, man, two old rivals in the SEC. Used to be SEC East, and, well, now they're in the non-divisional SEC. But Tennessee was 8.5, and I was all ready to lay it. It went to 9.5. It's now at 10 at Bet Rivers. When is the last time a good Kentucky team, is getting double digits? But Kentucky, they have struggled a little bit, and especially in their losses. And in their wins, they're averaging 94 points a game. In their losses, well, not so much. Two of the three losses, they have scored under 70 in those losses. Now, one, they had scored almost 100 in that home loss against Alabama. Two willing teams that like to get up and down. But this one is obviously a battle of tempo, and Tennessee certainly showed they can play a half-court game, a low-scoring game, low 50s. They lose by a deuce. What a game it was. High-profile game on Saturday night down in Auburn, which I think Auburn's the toughest place. Auburn and Ames, Iowa, I think are the two toughest places to play in college basketball this year. But Tennessee still at 10. This one you say, man, that's a lot to lay. But I just think that it's easier to slow it down. It's easier to control your own tempo at your home court. And let's face it, home court has meant a big deal in conference basketball in general, but specifically in the SEC a lot. We'll get to some more of those games a little bit later. But Tennessee 3-0 straight up against the spread, 3-0 against the spread and straight up at home. Not so much on the road, and they'll be happy to get back at home in this one. And battle of the veteran coach and the young coach. But Pope, and the one thing that I had a problem with Kentucky in the Vanderbilt game, a lot of easy buckets. They're down double digits. They come back, have a lead, look like they're about to run off. But, man, too many easy buckets for Vanderbilt to catch up and then pass up Kentucky in that home win in Nashville. Tennessee minus 10 at home against Kentucky, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee coming off a loss, like you said, in a game that was kind of ugly, especially in the first half there against Auburn, but an exciting game nonetheless. So certainly can't fault you for taking the Volunteers off of a rare loss. And on the other side, you've got a Kentucky team that lost by 13 on the road earlier this month to Georgia. And then, as you mentioned, lost in Nashville to Vanderbilt this past Saturday by 5. So, Tennessee certainly capable of, winning this one by double digits. So we'll see what happens, and I'll be rooting for you and the Volunteers there.
Let's stay in the SEC, Paul, in another home pick here, and that's Texas A&M. And A&M was so close to getting two quality road victories, and they go and trail for most of the game, I think all until the final score. In Oxford against a really tough team, against a great coach and Chris Beard, and pull it away. And then Chris Beard's old school, Texas, and win about 21 and lose that lead. A&M, a tough way to lose. But now they're back home against Oklahoma. Spread right now at Bet Rivers 8.5, 144.5.
Yeah, you mentioned Texas A&M returning home after back-to-back road games, both of which went down to the final seconds. Win by a single point there at Ole Miss, and then lose by 1 at Texas this past Saturday. That loss in Austin coming after the Aggies led by 22 points with under 17 minutes remaining. But we've talked about it already on the basketball podcast this year. That's kind of going to be life in the SEC. There's a lot of quality teams. No lead is safe. Texas has an offensive powerhouse in true freshman Trey Johnson, and he certainly came up big for the Longhorns against the Aggies this past Saturday. But A&M, they now return home tonight in SEC action. Tonight, Tuesday, January 28th, they're at Reed Arena, where they're 9-1 on the season. Only loss coming 2.5 weeks ago to then fifth-ranked Alabama, 94-88. All 9 of their home wins by the Aggies have been by double digits or more. I think they're going to make it 10 double-digit home victories tonight against the Sooners. This is an Oklahoma team that started the year 13-0, ascended all the way to number 12 in the AP poll. but they're only 2-4 in SEC play. Again, it's the best league in the nation. Inarguably, their 2 wins in SEC play against South Carolina and Arkansas, the 2 teams currently at the bottom of the league standings. They beat Arkansas, a team that lost their top player, the true freshman, playing without him. They win at Arkansas, does Oklahoma 65-62 in their last game. This is a rematch of an earlier game. They played 3 weeks ago in Norman. The Aggies in that game rallied from an 18-point deficit, beat the Sooners 80-78. And A&M, they've dropped 3 of the last 5 games, so they need a win desperately to get back in the thick of the SEC conversation. Wade Taylor the fourth, he didn't play in the last game that A&M played against Oklahoma when they won by 2 in Norman. He will be playing his 4th straight game since missing a few games due to injury. So I like the Aggies tonight by double digits.
I like the Aggies tonight in that game as well. Don't forget, bet on the big game with Bet River Sportsbook and earn a chance to win one of 5,900 players to win prizes in the big game $59K bonus bet giveaway. Check out the Bet Rivers app for full details. Let's stay in the SEC. Let's stick with a home team here, Georgia Bulldogs. You talk about them at home and on the road, 2-5 in SEC play, but 3-0 against the spread at home. The only loss was that 70-68 loss to number 1 Auburn. The South Carolina Gamecocks 0-7, but not just any ordinary 0-7, but 2 tough losses, the last 2 at home against 2 teams that are strong probabilities to be in the NCAA field of 68. Florida, they led the whole game. Florida's only lead was at the end of the game. State, they fell behind big, but rally, get into overtime, and they'll lose that one. Seems like they have left a lot on the court now as they get ready to go travel a tough team in a tough place to play at the Georgia Bulldogs. Bulldogs 7.5 at home against maybe a fatigued mentally and physically Gamecock crew who is still winless in the in-conference play, Paul.
Yeah, Georgia was really a player who's really a player to watch in this game is their 6'11 freshman Asa Newell, a guy who I think is going to be probably a lottery pick come this summer. Newell's a guy who was highly recruited, averages 16.2 points a game, actually averages 15.1 points a game, almost 7 rebounds. So he's a big-time player, and I'm kind of like you, South Carolina, being so close at home to victory, they probably expended a lot of energy in those losses and playing a Georgia team that's got a big-time player.
All right, let's go out to the West Coast, Paul, for your final pick on Tuesday's card, and that is San Diego State 14.5 against visiting San Jose State. So San Jose State comes in at 10-11, San Diego State 13-5, and the Spartans here playing a little bit, coming into decent form here, have won 3 of 4 coming into this contest, catching 14.5 points.
Yeah, like you said, at 10-11 on the season and 3-6 in conference play, San Jose certainly not among the Mountain West Conference's upper echelon teams this year. But the Spartans, they have been pesky, as you pointed out, for the most part. In fact, of their 11 defeats, only one of those 11 defeats has been more than 14 points this year, and 6 of their losses by 7 points or fewer. So they've been in the hunt in most of their games. And also, don't look now, but San Jose State, they've been one of the best point spread teams in the country this year as well. 15-4 against the spread overall. That includes 10-2 against the spread as the betting underdog, and they're a perfect 6-0 against the spread when getting 9.5 points or more this season. So they have some favorable point spread tendencies there going into this game. San Diego State, meanwhile, they remain among the league's elite. They have struggled somewhat this year, though, in the role of double-digit favorite. They're only 2-5 are the Aztecs when laying double digits as a favorite. So I'm going to take San Jose State to stay within shouting distance here. Give me the Spartans plus 14.5 over the Aztecs.
All right, let's move on to Wednesday's card, and then we'll project the lines for Wednesday as they're not out yet at Bet Rivers, and go to the Big Ten. And this is one on the Big Ten Network, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. Wisconsin, number 17 in the country, traveling to College Park, Maryland, and take on the Maryland Terrapins. And Wisconsin's been pretty consistent all season long. Maryland may be on a little bit of a hot streak here. They won 5 of 6, but boy, they a road swing at Champaign against Illinois, and they win by 21. And then Sunday, before conference championship football games, they win a wild game, leading most of it. Indiana takes a lead, and then they come back, hit a big 3 down the stretch when they were down to take the win. So looks like they're the top form. Willard's crew, I like the way they shot the ball well against Indiana on Sunday. Shot selection was outstanding. They attempted very few threes in that route at Champaign. I mean, their ball movement was beautiful. And Reese down low was an animal for the Terrapins. We know they always have a great home court advantage. Now it seems like their level of excitement as a season high for the Terrapins in Willard's Club. Only laying 3 here against Wisconsin. Paul, this is a double barrel pick by both of us. We both like Maryland minus the 3 here.
Yeah, I'm with you here, Jimmy, on this one. Kevin Willard done a great job there in College Park. Maryland's been sneaky good this year. They're at home. They're 12-1 straight up. Their only home loss this year came to Marquette by 4 points back before Thanksgiving. So they've been really good at home. You mentioned they're in the midst of a mini 3-game winning streak. You talked about the back-to-back road victories at Illinois and Indiana. Maryland, very interesting to me. They don't have a deep bench, but their 5 starters, man, this balance of a scoring attack, I don't know if anybody's got anything like this nationwide. Their 5 starters average between 11.5 points on the low end to 15.2 points per game on the high end. So they have 5 guys. They can score the ball from all 5 positions. All 5 of their starters have scored at least 24 points in a game this year. So all very capable at all 5 positions to score the basketball. Wisconsin, they lost by 2 at UCLA in their last road game. They're currently ranked 17th in both the major polls. So we've got that favorable point spread angle tonight, or on Wednesday rather, of more than likely having an unranked team, Maryland, favored over a ranked team. Wisconsin, I'll take the Terrapins as well, projected -3 over the Badgers.
There's no doubt, Paul, and when I watch them too, they just don't have any any tendencies. Like you said, all 5 starters have had a game where they've scored at least 24. So, taking advantage of the matchups there, all 5 of those same starters average 11 or more. Double digits going into the game. We talk about Queen, Gillespie, Reese, Rice, and Miguel. So, no, they are really, really up. And Willard's a really good coach. Got to start, at Seton Hall and came over there and did really good things with them up in the New Jersey area. So, Maryland might be one of those teams that kind of turn the corner right now. The eyeball, the ball movement, it's clean, it's crisp, it's a good flow to it right now. So it might be team to kind of watch mid-stretch right now. Wisconsin would be a big one. That'd be a big one. They're a tough out. There's no doubt about that. But we will see. All right, Paul, let's go to the ACC. And, ACC, just like we grew up, huh? Syracuse, Stanford. Let's go to Palo Alto here. Of course, Syracuse. Well, they were kicking and screaming. Certainly Boeheim was when they left the Big East. And, well, it's not the Stanford coach, but Mitch Cronin has certainly let his feelings known about moving to the Big Ten. But we all talked about that. Are you going to travel with all your sports? And so, anyway, here's one of those cases where Syracuse, not only are they traveling from New York to the Bay Area in Palo Alto, California. And if you ever been to Pebble Beach or been to Stanford, I've been to both. It's hard to get there. You probably got to fly into San Jose or San Francisco or Oakland, but it's a little bit of a drive after you go into those places as well. So Syracuse not only going over there to play on the West Coast with the travel, but the time of it as well. 10 p.m. Pacific. 8 p.m. local time Pacific. That's 11 p.m. Eastern time. So this is just that alone. But why do you like it beyond that? Just the obvious travel and time considerations here for Syracuse. Stanford is projected to be 8-point favorites at home.
Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons I like him certainly is their first-year head coach, Kyle Smith, a guy who previously was at Washington State and before that at San Francisco. And he has really, he's quietly done an exceptional job there for the Cardinal this year. They're 14-6 on the season, 6-3 in ACC play, and they've certainly at least entered the fringe of the NCAA tournament conversation for an at-large bid. So they're certainly in the mix for that as we stand right now. The Cardinal, they've won 5 of the last 6 games overall, so they're playing well. Really been good at home, 11-1 at home, 9-3 against the spread as a home favorite, which is obviously the role that they'll be in against the Orange on Wednesday night. The Cardinal, they're led by a guy that maybe a lot of people, especially the West Coast, sometimes some of us in other parts of the country maybe don't stay up late enough, but they've got a 7-1 forward, their big man, Maxima Reynaud. He's a Frenchman, been in that program for 4 years, and he has developed piece by piece, year after year, averaging this year 20.5 points per game, 11.7 rebounds, 1.7 assists. He passed the ball as well, and 1 steal and 1 block a game. So this guy is a big-time player out there for the Cardinal. And the senior from Paris, also very impressive to me because big guys, a lot of times they need some rest. But he leads the team in minutes per game, averages 34 minutes a game. And again, his development has been something to watch there at Stanford over the course of the last 4 seasons. Syracuse, on the other hand, they're 1-4 straight up in true road games and 0-3 at neutral sites. So they've really struggled away from home this year. And you mentioned the body clock component of this game. 8 p.m. Pacific equals 11 p.m. Eastern, which is Syracuse's natural habitat. So this is going to be a late start for Syracuse. I like the Cardinal to win this one by double digits.
Can't miss big number 42 for the Cardinal, Maxime Renaud. Again, as you talked about, 21-12. They round off the numbers. 21-12 for the 7'1", 245-pound senior from Paris. 4-1 at home in the conference is Stanford. Their only loss early in the season to the Oregon Ducks. I'm sorry, that's not even... That's 4-0 at home. Paul, I'm sorry, but, I'm still trying to get caught up. Who's in the Big Ten and who's in the ACC out of the former Pac-12. Apologize about that. But they are getting better. Like we said, you talk about that's a thing to keep in mind, too, with first-year coaches also, and that is how they mid-season on, and we're kind of getting to that range. They've won 5 of their last 6. So let's go to our final play, and it's a double-barrel game. It's in the SEC, and Chris Beard going to go to his old team. Now, he didn't spend very long in Austin, spent much more time in Lubbock, Texas. But Ole Miss, all of a sudden, they're rolling. High Point at Tuscaloosa. I was at Coleman Coliseum for that game, and they win comfortably on the road against Alabama. But since then, man, the brutal loss where they led the whole game against Texas A&M. And then Saturday, where that was about as poor of a defensive effort that I've seen a Chris Beard team have. They gave up about 80 points to Missouri, and it was just easy bucket after easy bucket. They didn't shoot the ball that bad. But when you're giving up that many easy buckets, it just, you never had a chance, and it just kind of, just never a threat in that game. So maybe hanging their heads from that loss in that they were winning the whole time against Texas A&M. Ole Miss 6 at home against Texas. I like going against teams after emotional wins. I would say that's an emotional win against A&M, your heated rival, down 21. You don't win. And then a bucket with about 3 seconds to go to give the Longhorns their only lead of the game. So spot here, comeback, Beard, easy to coach them after a loss. I think a big effort out of Ole Miss. This one that could get ugly on Wednesday night. It's a double-barrel pick. Both Paul, you and I both like it. Why do you?
Yeah, a lot of my thought process is the same as yours, Jimmy. And Ole Miss, not only the loss to Missouri, but I think they've now lost 3 in a row. So they're kind of mired in a little bit of a losing streak here. And Chris Beard facing his former team for the first time since being fired 2 years ago amid domestic violence allegations. Those charges were ultimately dropped 1 month after Beard was dismissed. And there's a few things, kind of that I jotted down on this one that I think are working in Ole Miss's favor. First of all, Mississippi's a talented basketball team. They are playing very good basketball in Beard's second season there in Oxford. They're 9-1 at home this season, in desperate need of a victory to remain within shouting distance of the SEC lead. So certainly need a win here. And then there's the Chris Beard factor, not to get into the politics of it, but he's a human, and you have to think just naturally when you go against a team where you once coached in any circumstance, I think you're going to have a little extra juice. So I think Beard's going to be pumped up for this one. The fact, as you mentioned, not off a stellar effort against Missouri, especially on defense, that's going to give him a little more I think, of a probability for a top effort here against the Longhorns. And then on the other side, you've got a Texas team that expended so much energy and emotion this past weekend in overcoming that huge deficit to defeat Texas A&M, their hated rival, 70-69 at home in the game's final seconds. As you mentioned, they trailed or were tied for the first 39 minutes and 57 seconds of that game. So they were fighting from behind the whole time. So I just think the stars seem to be aligned really nicely for the Rebels in this one. I'll take Beard and Ole Miss. I expect them to beat the Longhorns, as do you, by double digits or more Wednesday night there in Oxford.
All right, each and every Tuesday, we'll look at the Tuesday and Wednesday card in college basketball. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott, right here in the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the Bet Rivers Network.